Hi, my name is Brittany. It's a privilege just to share with you guys this part of my testimony in this season of life. Maybe a year and 7 months ago is when my redemption started. But let's go a little further than that. 7 months before that is when my test started. I had a longtime family friend reach out to me, and this particular family friend was like a mentor to me, like a big sister. And in previous seasons, she was somebody I really kind of leaned on when it came to my walk with the Lord. To the point where, in all honesty, the Lord removed her from my life because I was putting her in his spot. And God needed to teach me in that season, you don't need anybody else to lead you nor teach you, like I am your support. So years later now, getting this phone call from her, remembered the previous test, and I didn't feel that I was still putting her as like that God spot in my life. So upon hearing her, I was like, yeah, this is good. I'm in a good place. I'm living on my own, and she has always been a big influence up until that point in my life. And immediately she was going through a divorce, and I felt for her and I wanted to help her in any way that I could. And so without, her really asking, I was like, what do you need? Like, I'm here for you if you need something. And began just giving her like, $20 here and there. Sometimes more, like, 50 to 100, because, groceries, stuff like that. We began talking more frequently. We would have a Bible study, and at this time, the Bible studies got so frequent that she would say, "Oh, you don't need to go to church today. What we just did was enough, and you just need to rest in that." And something in my spirit didn't feel right, but I trusted her, and I believed, like, okay, she's hearing from the Lord, so it's okay to stay home. That started happening quite frequently. Instead of going, 4 Sundays in a month, it would be like I would miss 3 Sundays and go 1 Sunday. And so my connection to the community that I was building was diminishing. The thing that really started manifesting without me realizing it is that I once again was depending upon her. She would quote the phrase to me quite often, saying like, the Lord said this and the Lord said that. And I remember distinctly one day, I think we were doing another Bible study in depth, and she had said something, and I said, you know what, do you mind if I get confirmation on that? Because God talks to me too, and if this is really him, I want him to tell me. And she responded, you don't need any confirmation, this is confirmation. And once again, I remember feeling in my spirit, Lord, is this really you? But I submitted because I trusted her. All the while not sensing that my trust for her was greater than my trust for the Lord in those respects. As time went on, I began thinking about what she was saying and questioning, like, God, what is a false prophet? And could she be a false prophet? I don't know. There were things that she encouraged me to do in this season, and a lot of it, the reason why I was willing to do it was due to the fact she made me believe, and I don't want to say she made, I made these decisions on my own. Because of what our conversations were about, I believed that I needed what she said I needed. I was, I guess, 31, 32 at the time, and she said, like, oh, you should be this by now. Like, Brittany, you should have already started your baking business, and you're going to be that architect. And so she's like, you need to change your wardrobe, you need to start buying things. And at this time in my life, I had basically no debt, no credit card debt, car payment. She introduced me to this payout system for somebody who I went through a class of financial freedom with Dave Ramsey about how to get out of debt, only to have her rewire my brain to think that debt's okay. You don't need a savings. God doesn't want you saving in this season, and just like take all the money out of your savings and putting it into your checking account. And I want to say this, that every single thing that she instructed me to do, there was something in me that was saying, like, I don't know, Brittany, is this really? I didn't listen to it. I continue just to be like, but she wouldn't do that. She's not that person. She hears from the Lord. The Lord is clear when he says in his word that I now know, and not know up here, I know in here now, that he says, no longer shall any man teach you, but my Holy Spirit himself will be your teacher and your guide. I knew that up here at the time. I didn't know it in here, to challenge somebody that I trusted, to be like, I know you're my friend, I know you're my sister in Christ, but I can't agree with what you're telling me. I didn't say that back then. So time went on, and she began telling me to like change my hair routine, change my eating habits. She was telling me that I needed to get a new exercise regimen, all things that seemed believable. I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about you're gonna meet your husband soon, and so all these different types of stuff. I want to be specific about a couple things. She had me buy her quite large, expensive gifts, saying that I needed to break free from this bloodline connection of not being a giver. The two gifts that I did buy were like $300, $400 each. And I struggled with that, praying, and I'm like, God, is this really you? I did send her both of them. Another big buy was the day when she told me, you need to buy a brand new Mercedes-Benz because you should already be living this lifestyle. And she told me, you need to go do this weekend. And I was like, this is a big thing. Can I tell my parents? It's like, they'll find out when you drive up in the driveway. That was really, really hard. October 14th, I went to the Mercedes-Benz dealership by my house by myself at 9 a.m. and I traded in my paid off Nissan Altima, which had a value of $5,000 on the market at the time. I got the full amount. And then I bought a brand new 2023 Mercedes-Benz. Immediately, I'm in debt, $8,000 on a $10,000 credit card, and the interest was outrageous. Fast forward a little bit more, it's coming into December, Christmas time, and now that I have this new car payment that I didn't have before, I no longer can afford to live in my apartment. And she was like, oh, don't worry about it. You just need to move back home with your parents. And I remember distinctly, before I had that initial phone call when she came into my life, my lease was ending, and I had made a plan to move back home when my lease broke. I told her my plan. Yeah, I'm gonna move back home, I'm gonna save. And she said, the Lord doesn't want you to do that. You need to stay in your apartment. And I was like, really? I don't hear that, but okay. I renewed my lease for another 15 months after that phone call, only to have to break it 5-6 months later in December when I could no longer afford my apartment with everything else, the new bills. I did move back home, but under different circumstances. Very much in debt. Then I'm home, and before I get home, she tells me, now when you go home, your parents are gonna wanna know, they're gonna see a difference and a change, and so don't talk to them about godly things, spiritual things. When you have conversation, only talk to them about life stuff, because you have like elevated above them. I moved back home a week before Christmas, and my mom was the one that fought for her daughter, me, in the spirit. She watched me while I was home. We would still have Bible studies, late night prayers, wasn't getting much sleep. It was now in that season of shortly being at home from Christmas to like my birthday, which is January 8th, like only 2 weeks later, I wrestled more with what was going on. And it wasn't just me, there was 3 other people in the group outside of it. My mom is telling me, Britney, I hear you saying that you are in Bible study and praying all the time, but I don't see the joy of the Lord in your countenance, on your face, and your speech. And if this is God, I just don't see it. I began to get really angry and, frustrated with them continually asking me, because I was like, no, this is God, this is God. I want to back up just a little bit because I missed a very important key that is really what hurt me the deepest. Before the car buying, on October 14th, my friend at the time told me that my church and church in general wasn't doing right by the Lord's tithe, and that I should stop tithing to my church and give my tithe to her ministry. The reason why this hurt me the deepest is I had given my testimony about how good the Lord had been with me living on my own for almost four years, and how I had always been a faithful tither in my growing up years, but that was because mommy and daddy, as a Christian household, we did that thing. When I came into adulthood and was out on my own, I rededicated my tithe to the Lord in the sense that I knew what to do, but it wasn't a heart surrender. When she told me that the church wasn't doing right by the Lord and I should give my tithe to her, I can't tell you to this day what compelled me to believe her in that, when I just had this amazing testimony about the goodness of God and giving it to his local body, whatever I attend. So I stopped giving my tithe to my local church and started giving my tithe and my offering to her and her ministry. And her ministry was her getting up and doing whatever she said the Lord told her to do. She told me what she was going to put the money for. She said, I'm not using it. I'm putting it away into a fund to buy a car, and I'm going to use it as my ministry car. All this I believed, and I was deceived. I needed to say that part to give you guys context of just the level of deception that I was in. So let's jump back to I'm living at home. My mom had been really pressing me, and I remember she would be up all hours of the night praying in the spirit, and I would hear her and I would get frustrated. It's like, why are you praying in the spirit? I am doing the Lord's called me to do. Still having doubts, more doubts about questioning about false prophets and stuff like that. On January 17th, my mom, reading me like a book, just began saying things that I was hearing but wasn't listening, because I was frustrated that she was talking to me about God things, which is the very thing she told me not to do, because some quote I was above it. My mom was telling me about spiritual things like, Britney, I see this and I see this, and I don't think it's right. While she was talking, I heard the Lord clear as day, as if he was in the room, saying, Britney, if you choose to dishonor your mom in this moment, it will not go well with you. And I paused, and it was like whatever block was on my ears in the spirit, and whatever scales were on my eyes in the spirit, they fell off, and I was at peak attention. And immediately I just looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, I am so sorry. Whatever you just said, please tell me again, because now I'm listening. And she said, Britney, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever this is, it looks like what happened to you with so-and-so and so-and-so. So these two individuals are in my past and different seasons in my life that I learned hard lessons. And when she said that, I told her everything in that moment that happened in the last 7 months with me, with this person. She had to have had such a grace on her in that moment to not scream in anger with what the length of things that I told. She firmly but calmly said, honey, I don't know if you know this, but that is the very definition of a cult. I stood back and I was dumbfounded, and I was so broken that I had come to that level of deception by my own naivety and not picking up on the signs and not having the courage and the backbone to say, yeah, you may be my mentor from since I was little and somebody who I look up to, but that's not what God's word says. I did not say that. In the entire 7 months, I just trusted and I put trusting her above trusting God. The next day, she called me like 4 or 5 times at my job and I didn't answer. The next day, after a day of just, wrestling out with the Lord, I did take her phone call. And I finally had the courage to say, you know what, I'm okay if you're not speaking against my life, because I need to hear from God directly. And if that means we're not talking, I'm okay with that. She got quiet and she said, I can't talk to you right now. And I'm like, that's okay. You can call me back later. As soon as she got the phone, she had somebody else call me. And he kind of played like he didn't know what was going on, and so did I. And I was like, hey, how are you doing today? And he was like, I'm good. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Didn't tell him a thing. And for the first time ever, on the back of the phone call, I was hearing noises that sounded demonic. And I was like, okay, Lord, thank you for revealing all of this, because didn't see this before. I called both of them about 10 times that night. They never answered me. To this day, they haven't answered me. All this happened over phone, by the way. She did not live in Florida at the time, nor does she now. The very next day, January 18th, I was supposed to be on a phone call with her to give her my social security number, all my information, so that she could have me as a co-signer on another Mercedes that she was gonna buy. The Lord spared me. Had I not listened in the moment, God said, if you do not honor your mom, it will not go well with you. The next day would have been tragic. A month after that, I had an opportunity to sell my cookies for the first time at a coffee shop, and it was the owner raved about my cookies. The people that came raved. I mean, it was like God was rolling out the red carpet, and I did not feel like I deserved it. But yet still his mercies were so good. A year later, January 17th, I was here at Trinity at a Kingdom Culture Night, and I had just finished paying off my last payment on the lease amount that I owed. Oh, a month early. And since then, God has been so gracious in his mercy and his forgiveness, and a lot of healing has had to happen, and it's still happening. It is amazing to look back and no longer be ashamed of it, but to share it, believing that my life doesn't belong to me. It belongs to God, and he's going to get the glory through this story. And I'm so grateful to be honored to share it with you. God bless.